Yeah, what do you think of them, Jared?
That new 15X collar is really nice. I'm actually using it for the bird dog side every day, and I mean, I think I charged it once in 10 or 12 days of run. Obviously, I'm not using it all day. It's on for 6 hours a day, probably
Right.
6, 7 hours, and then I turn it off and hit it the next day. But I haven't had to charge a collar for over almost 2 weeks, and that
That's
was super
crazy.
handy, dude. I mean, some of the Pro Series, the 500, and then using the older, God, I can't even remember the GX or whatever that. Anyway, I could get 2 or 3 days runtime out of those probably, and then I'd be charging them. My
Right.
batteries are probably starting to get low, but having that 15X is really nice, man.
Yeah.
The battery life is really good.
I know. I wish the handheld matched the collars.
I know, huh? I bet. I wish you probably get that a lot.
Yeah,
Call
oh
Garmin and
yeah.
tell them to make a battery for the 200i that'll last
No
as long as
kidding.
the 15X.
Yeah,
That
that's
would make
probably
all of
one
our lives easier.
probably one of the big ones I hear. It's definitely the battery life. But I want to do a test on sleep mode, like how long you can leave one in.
Oh,
I've got
really?
one charged up. I'm going to try it and see because in that sleep mode, they'll last forever.
Long time.
I don't even want to throw a number out there, but I have a number in my head on how long that thing will last, and I
Yeah.
want to see how close I am.
So I don't think I've ever put one into sleep mode. I've always just changed the update rate. So is the sleep mode in the same screen that you would change the update rate in? On the
Yeah, you can do it from the dog information page.
Okay.
So when you put it into sleep mode, it cuts transmission.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. So you're running on nothing.
Just
It's basically just pulling enough power to keep searching for a signal to wake it up, but it's not
gotcha.
transmitting a GPS location. So your
Nice.
battery life on our minis, I know I put one in sleep mode for a couple of weeks, several weeks.
Really?
Yeah, if
Wow.
it was in full sleep mode, but I haven't ran one in a long time. I thought I had written it down how far or how long it lasted. I'll have to see if I can find it.
That's a
But I
long
want to try
time.
one with the 15Xs
Let's see.
because the ideal part is you're going from like you're hitting a canyon, you're doing your hunting, you want to go
Right.
hit another spot, you sleep mode it instead of
Sleep
having to
mode.
take it off the dog. Because I can think back to when I was starting and how hard it was. Like when you didn't have a handle on those dogs, you
Yeah.
didn't want to be taking a collar off and putting it on every time you stopped because that's when dogs get out without collars and stuff goes south.
Yep.
So you can just put it in sleep mode and
Yeah.
wake it back up. Or, if you've got a long ways around, dog
Yeah.
goes over a ridge, you got a long time to get around, or you think you're
Right.
going to be overnight or something like
Right.
that, put it to sleep, go around, wake it back up, next morning when you come back in or whatever. And I don't know, it seems to work pretty well so far. I haven't had any issues with it.
Be super handy at bear camp this summer because I
Oh,
can just leave
yeah.
them on the puppies.
Yeah,
Put
the
them
whole
at put
time you're out
the whole
there.
time I'm up there. I'm camping for a week straight. It's like just link up, put them all on, and then when everybody's shutting down for the night, just sleep mode
Sleep
everything
them.
and get up the next morning and wake everything up and not have to be collaring those pups.
Hmm.
Sometimes we let them loose too, and they just kind of all over camp.
Yeah.
Be kind of nice to not have to be like, okay, turn that one off and put a new one on him, and
Yep.
just leave it on him. And then when everybody's passed out, sleep mode everything, and that
For
would be
sure.
super handy. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, when's your bear camp starting up? You still got a
Um.
little bit, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. We don't do our bear camp until the summer. In
Right.
July, the July pursuit, we go up on top of the mountain at like 10,000 feet and get the cool weather. Get out of
Get
get
out
out
of
of
the
the
heat.
heat. Yep. Pull the trailer up there. Pull the bird dogs up there. Pull the hounds up there. It's a lot of fun. You don't want to camp next to us though, because there'll be like 40 dogs up there.
There's a whole lot of dog crap
But
somewhere.
yeah, there's just a lot of noise. There's puppies barking, and anyway, it's a fun time though because we have bear camp and bird dogs, and get up super early, run the dogs, run a bear if you can. Usually we can get something rolling, and then in the afternoons train bird dogs. So
Heck yeah. Make good
might
use out of your time.
yeah, get equalize the days. it's too hot down here in the valley to train in the afternoons. To get too
Right.
warm. So
Well, lion season's done for you, right?
lion season is just about wrapped. Yeah, I'll probably try and go catch a couple more, but for the most part, bears starting to get on the mind. So
How was season this year?
lion season was good. Was really good. Um, did some outfitting, did some guiding. Dogs are all dialed in right now, man. They are
That's
tuned up right
awesome.
now. It's so fun to see that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of grind. I know you and I were talking a little bit in that period, and it's like, when can we get together? And I don't know. I get up at 2 and I go to bed at 9 or 10. So it's like it's a lot of grind. But we
Oh
did
yeah.
well. We did well.
Do you have any
Dogs did good.
weather early in season, or did you have to wait?
We did have some early, and then it melted all off, and then it came back. I don't know. I can't even remember the. It's all a big blur. The latter part of the season had some pretty good storms,
Yeah.
and then we started dry grounding it, and that's sexy. That's fun. That's cool to see that big old tom line tracking that sand, and you're just like, oh, dude,
Oh yeah,
heck
I'll
yeah,
bet.
let's get after it. So
How big was the big Tom track? That thing was
it was
massive.
nice. It was a really nice tom. Yeah, the dogs did great. I had some good help. I had my brother there that day, and I had a really good hunting buddy, Corbin, and they were able to help. I think on that one track we probably had like 7 or 8 different sending scenarios.
Yeah.
It blows my mind, how much different that is than like a snow track. Even
Oh,
if you
for
find a
sure.
2-day-old snow track, you've got melt and you've got warm. In the spring, you've got all kinds of different conditions. But even on that, that was a nice, pretty kind of not too hot day. We're still in the spring, but man, it was like some places in the sand. The sand is that really fine stuff, and the wind gets a hold of it. So the scent, you were slowing right down, and the dogs were like just
Right.
pecking it. Just like we can smell it here. They couldn't smell it for another 40, 50 yards, and they could smell it here underneath this tree, and
Just
it
hunt
was a
and peck.
grind. It was a grind, but the dogs did really good, and I had those guys. It's nice to have. Hey, we're a mile from the truck or whatever. Well, I'll go back and get the truck and leapfrog it around, and then
Yeah.
I'll keep walking with the dogs, or I'll push the track, and the dogs did well, and then they got him on that ledge, and that was awesome. It's beautiful country down there in southern Utah. So Red
Oh, it looks
Rock, and
awesome.
yeah, it was cool. They got him ledged up, and then we were concerned about getting the dogs thrown off the ledges, so we finally pulled everybody back, and he kind of got up. And I think when he got up and started doing his trot away, it was like, whoa, that's a lot bigger cat than we just thought it was.
Oh
When they're
yeah.
crouched down on the rock, it's like, oh, that's a good cat. And then all of a sudden, when he stands up and lengthens out and starts
That's what I
moving,
thought.
you're like, oh, shoo, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he just kind of made that loop. You put the video up on your Instagram, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. He gets up from that,
He
the
does. He
dogs
comes
get
off
pulled
that
back
ledge
and he
and
makes a big old loop.
right behind us. Yeah.
So
Yep.
how far from there did she catch him again?
It wasn't too far. I think he went like 800 yards on the Garmin or something.
Did
He
he
actually,
tree?
he actually went into like underneath a ledge and got underneath the ledge. And as we were trying to get there, I'm the slowest one, dude. So my brother and Corbin, they could just fly. They just, poof, they're gone. They're already ahead of me anyway. Corbin got down there and he's like, I could hear the dogs just like baying, and I could hear the fight going on. And he's like, one of the dogs must have got in there, and he came because he flew right past Corbin, and then he went up a tree right there. So,
Oh,
but for a minute, he was just in a hole,
that's
which
sketchy.
yeah, that can be crappy.
Yeah.
We had a line that this year that we killed. Well, the guy shot, and it wasn't uh didn't die. And I had Beretta and 2 other dogs on it, and it broke its front right shoulder, but it was still, man, and Beretta's still got, she's got part of her ear that's cut and hanging down, and
Hmm.
yeah, I got over there, and then the lion had her the lion had a hold of her head, and then she had a hold of the lion's head, and it was just one of those
Like the
up.
hands on a baseball bat.
Oh man, the guy's like, "What do you want me to do?" And I'm, just a second, as soon as I can pull that dog back, I want you to get up there and finish that lion. And
It was with a client.
Oh yeah, it was Western.
That's always, dude, I don't know if I can handle that. When you're not the one in control of like that situation 100%. Like I know as a guide you are in control, but there's always a factor in that shooter. And like it's your dogs, your life, his life.
Right.
You know, like you're there to make sure these people have a good hunt and make it back home in one piece.
Yeah.
That's got to be sketchy and stressful.
It's very stressful. In fact, I lost a dog, and my buddy lost 2 dogs. We hunt together a lot. Well, not this winter, but the winter before on a ledge, because we actually had the cat treed above the ledges, and the guy made not a good shot. The cat went down on the ledges, and then we had a big old mess on the ledges with a wounded cat, and dogs ended up falling, and just a bad deal, you know. So you're right, there is a whole nother factor. You don't have as much control. You don't have very much control when somebody else has got the gun.
Yeah. No, I couldn't imagine. And I think like even back, I've put somebody in that situation. You know, when I was first hunting, my first year bear hunting in California, I remember vividly. I mean, I'll never forget the hunt. It was the first year I had dogs. Like I didn't buy a tag until I had dogs, kind of deal. But I'd go down and go hunting with them. Right. And we ended up catching one right towards the end of season. I don't even think I had a dog on it, you know, but it was like last weekend we were going to be down there. And this thing's sitting up in the tree and dogs are still coming across and they're throwing them across the creek. And they said, just don't shoot them until we tell you.
Right.
Which, great. Yeah. In my head, no big deal. Like,
sure.
So I spotted up in the tree, you know, and I'm watching it and there's dogs under it and there's dogs coming across the creek and guys throwing them across the creek, you know.
Right.
It was probably early December. So, I mean, it wasn't real nice out.
Right.
And I got this bear looking at him through the scope. I walk around the tree to see if I can get another better shot at him. And as I'm coming back around, I heard something, and it's the sound you will never forget once you hear it of a bear coming down on top of you. Like just sliding down the tree. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like somebody just took a baseball bat full of 16 penny nails and just drove it into a side of a tree and they're just raking it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, crap. So I turn around and I throw the gun up and I just see hair. Because I'm on instinct. Like, I know the bear's not going to get me. I'm not worried about that.
Right.
But in my rookiness, I don't know, inexperience,
right.
I'm like, I don't want this thing to get away. and everything else went out the window. You know, I didn't even think about it.
Right.
So this thing climbs down to a point. I see 2 black spots. And it was a little cinnamon bear. But I know what those 2 black spots are. And I just drop the hammer.
Yeah.
And this bear flops out. You know, he was probably, I'm going to say 15 foot up. You know, he was about down there. Hits the snow. I think it's all done and over. Well, then I go walking up to the thing. And next thing you know, it's head shaking. And there's a paw coming at me. I mean, about got my foot.
Wow.
And just wheels around and takes off right towards the creek where my buddies have got dogs throwing them across. And looking back now, if any of you guys are listening, I'm real sorry about that. Like, I can look back now and luckily it all worked out. Yeah. We ended up getting the bear and everything was fine. Nobody got hurt. But I think back, man, that was a real dumb move on my part. And just, even though it wasn't intentional, what inexperience will make you prioritize things differently. Right. If that makes sense. You know, my priority was the bear, not the dogs.
Yeah.
And it's because I was new and I didn't understand the repercussions of if things like that go bad.
Right.
So it's like now, even though I've never had it happen, I can see it at least. And I know guys that, you know, they've had dogs killed because somebody was inexperienced and made a bad shot or something happened or, you know, you wait too long because you want to find a better way in or sending conditions. There's 100,000 reasons that things can go south.
Yep.
But I would imagine, like, anytime I talk to the outfitters and guides, it's just that's the one thing that I think would be the hardest
It is.
is you've poured everything into those dogs and what you're doing and trying to accomplish the goal.
Right.
And then, like, what if it goes south?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to say something.
That gentleman actually, so we got that cat killed on the ground with those 3 or 4 dogs. And he was just, after it was over, he was just standing there shaking,
Shaking.
And he's like, you don't know this, but I've hunted all over the world. And he's like, I've shot Cape Buffalo at 15 paces,
Right.
charging me, and in Africa. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, this tops that way, way.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, the adrenaline was just so much he couldn't, and you don't. It's funny because you tree hundreds of cats or whatever, and it's like everything's just smooth, everything works good. But then I don't know. I've become extremely grateful for all the good times, all the, everybody goes back to the truck, all the dogs are in
The smooth
good
trips.
health. Yep. Because all it takes is the blink of an eye, and you're hunting an apex predator, man. They kill.
Oh, yeah.
They kill for a living. That's what they do, and
That's business.
they are when they're cornered, they become. I'm not usually too worried about cats because it's like they're a little more chicken than a bear. They go up a tree a lot faster, and they don't fight dogs on the ground typically.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get a wounded cat, dude, they go to
that's different.
Yeah, it's a whole nother level of crazy. But yeah, the cat we killed on the desert this year was awesome, and it was a great experience. And dude, I'm almost speechless. Like, what do you say other than I was very grateful. You have a lot more respect for that caliber of a cat.
Right.
He's been
put hands on him.
Yeah, he's been alive that long, and lots of other houndsmen have tried to catch him, and he got away or whatever happened,
Sure.
And so when it all clicks, and then it's like I'm the one that's got a tag in my hand, and yeah, and when you harvest a cat and he gets bigger, like the longer
that never happens.
Yeah, the longer we kept moving him around and kind of pulling him out, and they're like, you need to hold him up, and it was like, the guy taking the pictures like, holy shit, dude, that's a big cat. Like, this thing's getting bigger the more we played. Anyway, yeah, and it was really nice cat.
And you had all your dogs on it?
Yeah, I had most
even
of
the young
mine.
ones.
I was able to kick in the young ones. For the first half of that race, it was pretty slow going and tough conditions, and
yeah,
it would have been nice to have the young pups there, but we just didn't. Sometimes it was one of those days where you weren't expecting that to happen. It was like, hey, let's go train, right? Let's just go down on the desert and train. And you roll up there at 9:00 and you cut this track, and then everything just kind of unfolds. And then when it's all over, you look back and you're like, holy cow, that was a freaking awesome day. Yeah, that only happens every once in a while. So
yeah, no kidding.
Sweet. It was super sweet.
And I know we've talked about it before, but people that aren't familiar with your past podcasts, you run the same dogs on bear that you run on cats too.
I do. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, I just had a guy message us today. Can't remember his name right now, but he was out of Montana, and he was talking about getting Finnish lion dogs to run bears because they got a bear season now.
Yeah, they do up there.
Yeah,
I heard so. Yeah,
he says you might ask the guys what they think about this, and getting them to run it. And I'm obviously no expert in either one,
right,
or any of this, but I don't know. Like, you've just always ran yours on cats and bears, right?
Yeah, I've wanted I don't know, maybe it's coming from the bird dog side, but I wanted a dog that can do both.
Yeah.
If not, run bobcats too. In my mind, it's like, why can't I catch bears, bobcats, and lions with the same dog? Now, granted, the longer I do this, the more I realize that there are dogs that have personality traits, genetic traits, that make them better at a certain task. Like some of these dry ground guys that hunt, in Arizona or whatever, and that's all they do 24/7 is hunt dry ground, like Cleve Dwyer and those kind of guys that are on a mule every day. Their style of dogs, do they need a dog that can pick their head up and run a bear like
Right.
some of my blue dogs do, have a 20-mile race in an afternoon. They probably don't need that dog. They don't. In fact, they don't want that dog. They want a dog that's going to track to track and grind that dirt track out. So, but for me, I've wanted both.
Which one
Yeah.
did you start on?
I started more bear heavy.
Yeah.
So I think the first 5 or 6 years I just enjoyed the bear more. I grew up hunting upland and I hated waterfowl because it was cold and wet.
Right.
I hated sitting in the duck blind and just freezing my butt off. So I was like, because I could never afford the $3,000, $5,000 worth of gear I needed to stay warm sitting in a duck blind. So
Sure.
I always just chased quail and pheasants. And anyway, yeah.
Bears
so
in the summer.
I love bear hunting because it was like you could do it in a t-shirt and jeans and just go and have fun. And a bear race is like a UFC fight. It's like
Right.
once you get it rolling, it's like pour the heat. Just let's have a fight, And the lion hunting's more like a chess match. It's like where did he go and how can we cut him fresh the next day? And it's just different. It's just a different race. But I don't know. It's cool to see dogs that can do both. It really is.
Yeah.
I know when we hunt heavy bear and try to switch to lion, there's probably 5 to 6 races that are just a nightmare. They're trying to run lion tracks off. Like, the dogs are still in bear mode and they want to run the bear track like a lion track like a bear track and vice versa. Now getting these guys off a lot of lions this winter and trying to get them to run bear, it'll take 4 or 5 races before we're cranking again, So.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it, I mean, like with any of it, it's going to depend on the dog too.
Yep.
Because like even the dogs that I'm hunting right now, granted I haven't been doing a real great job lately, and they might go out and trash. You never know. But when you see them walk right over areas that there's bears going through, and they've just never tried to run one, like you're not going to make a bear dog out of that. Yeah. I don't think. You might be able to coax them into it and put them with something and get them going. But if they've passed by it all these years and you're talking older dogs, I just don't know how much success you're really going to have. And I wonder, I mean, you're a trainer, so what do you think of this? Let's say you got a dog that's ran lions. It's 5 years old. Yes. Prime of its life. I mean, tip-top shape, good finished lion hound. Never been broke on bears. But the fact that maybe it's gone over bears a bunch of times, okay?
Right.
And it's never done it, and then you coax it into it, do you think you're going to start seeing other issues as far as trash? Like, oh, well, now it's okay to run this. I've never been broke on a javelina, or I've never been broke on a fox or a deer. Some dogs
that 5-year-old, I don't think so. I've got a friend that's been hunting bears with me the last 2 years pretty hard, and he's had hardcore lion dogs. They come and run with the bear dogs. A lot of them don't. He made the comment the other day. In fact, he's started four other dogs, I think now, and he's training them completely different than he trained his lion dogs. He wants them aggressive. He wants them with their head up, running with their head up, and I don't think you're going to take a 5-year-old lion dog that's a true dirt grinding type dog and turn him into a fantastic bear dog. It doesn't work very. I mean, he's got 5 dogs that we turned out on bear all last year, and at the end he's just like, you know what? I'm wasting my time. I'm going to just keep those 5 dogs, true lion dogs, and then I'm just going to build another little pack over here with bear dogs. I think they just don't run it with the same grit and enthusiasm. They're just
that's what I was just going to say.
And they're just kind of like putting around, but they're there, but they're not like grinding.
They're not in it.
They're not up the front pushing the track, Mm-hmm. They're not balls to the wall, just, we got to catch this thing. So
that's kind of what I was thinking, was like anytime you got to coax a dog on something, I just always wonder how much heart is it really running with. Because it's like, okay, it might be there and looking like it. And luckily we got Garmin. I mean, you can tell what a dog's doing, but it just gives you an idea. Like that number 2 dog, number 3, number 4, are they there because that's where they run, or are they there because that's where they want to be?
Yeah.
A guy that I used to hunt with in California, he actually hunted with my great uncle years ago. And that's what I said, something about, I can't remember, maybe it was Sue's. She was related to some of my blue tick stuff I got later on.
Right.
And I said, well, he says, she's running right there. I said, how come she's hanging so far back? He says, she's right where she wants to be.
Right where she wants to be.
You know, and that's the truth. That's just some dogs, it's where they want to be. But when I watch him pick her up out of the box and set her down at 14 years old or whatever she was on a cat track, you know, he just let her go and do her thing. Right. And when she couldn't get it moving out of there, then he tries, you know, the other dogs. But it's like, yep, those dogs are doing exactly what they want to do. So the heart level, I think, has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. The style of dog, too. I mean, I've had multiple guys that catch a lot of lions call me and say, hey, you know, we're chasing these bears, but we're not catching them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and they call me and say, I'm calling to talk to you about, do I have the dogs that I need? Do you think I should get a few different dogs? Do you have a dog for sale? They're asking like, well, so the guys keep telling me that I should call you because you got bear dogs. And I'm like, yeah, there's a difference between a true
bear dog
that leads that pack than a dog that's just there, you know. Some of those dogs that are just there are 100 yards behind that bear, 50 yards behind that, and they're trailing and they're having a good time, but they're not putting any pressure on a bear to make him climb.
Cheerleaders.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of guys I hear call them. You know, they're there and they're in it, but they're not in there throwing blows, you know, or really putting heat. They're just, hey, I'm supposed to follow this.
Right.
And eventually I'm going to get to a tree.
Right.
You know, as opposed to we got to run this thing up a tree.
Yes. Yeah, but one of the guys that I talked to, he's it's like, you know, hey, this dog's going to run this bear and he's going to run it to catch it. He's going to full throttle it until he's just going to run to catch instead of just run to run, you know, just cheerlead. So, yeah, and to be honest, you know, not every dog in my pack is you know, I think we look back on that conversation you and I and Bear were having about having 6 quarterbacks instead of a linebacker and a receiver. And it's hard to get 6 quarterbacks. It's hard to get 6 all-stars, you know, it really is. So it's still a pack, you know, you have dogs that have strengths and weaknesses, but together they make a mean team.
For sure.
And
then one piece affects everything.
Yeah, and then you lose your lead dog, and then you're like,
yep. I'm living that life right now, man. And I'm not doing my part the way I should be either, but
yeah.
You know, I think that's the thing is a lot of the guys I talk to, it's like life happens.
It does.
You know, it just does. And you just got to make the best of your opportunities and get out when you can and hope it's enough.
This winter, I was fortunate to I had set aside time to hunt, and that's, you know, it was really cool. My dogs have probably never been this, like, hunted that many days consecutively since I got into it. But I had set aside 3 months to just grind, you know, and just hunt as much as you can almost every day, which is awesome. It was awesome. It makes you not want to go back to your day job because your dogs are like at this pinnacle, and it's like, I know if I don't hunt hard for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, they're gonna be right back to out of shape, fat, soft. Takes you 2 months to get them to where you want them. It takes about 2 weeks to undo all of that.
Well, exactly. Like, you know, you hunting like that, you saw it. And I remember when I finally realized there's a difference between dogs being in shape and somebody thinking dogs are in shape. Like, I used to think I had dogs that were in shape.
Yeah.
I don't have dogs that are in shape right now, but I can tell you when they were in shape, and it was such a difference.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than what the average person thinks to get a dog in shape, I think. Like hunting a day a week, 2 days a week even. Like, there is a different pinnacle. I mean, when you got guys that are hunting dogs 5, 6, 7 days a week, it is a totally mind-blowing difference.
Right.
And it's hard to go back to not being at that level too.
Yeah. Hats off to those guys that make a living with their hounds, because it's work, man. When it boils down to it, it's work. And those dogs are hard. They're hard as a rock. I mean, their feet are tough.
Mentally tough.
Yeah, they're mentally super mental. Because the fifth day you pull that dog out of the box and he's just exhausted, and it's like, I don't want to go today, you know, when it's the first of the season. At the end of the season, when it's day 5, it's like, bring it.
Yeah.
Where's the
same
next
thing.
one? I'll kill him. Like, where's he at?
Right.
Like, they just get so dialed and gritty, and they don't make many mistakes, and there's just nothing that's going to outrun them, you know? It's just like, pour it on.
Right.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's hunting them like that, man. It's a different level for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know. I mean, maybe if you were putting a dog on that much game trying to switch from lion to bear, you could get an older dog to do it. And I'm sure there's guys that'll say you can, and I'm not going to say you can't.
Sure.
I just think, like, if you're dealing with an older age bracket,
Right.
which I don't know what this guy had specifically, he didn't say, but
Right.
I think it's harder.
No
You know,
doubt.
because they're not going to run him with all that heart either.
Mm-mm.
You know, a young dog, I think you could probably get him going
Yeah,
fairly
say
easy.
He had a 1-year-old that saw 20 lions, and he's got the right style to hunt bears.
Mhm.
You know, when I say style, I mean a dog that can put his nose down and grind, and then he knows when to pick his head up and roll. That's that. I'll be honest, it's easier to find like a true bear dog and a true lion dog. It's easier to have 2 different dogs
Yep.
and just have, hey, this one is going to grind a track and catch that lion, and this one will, you know, run with his head up and just drill a bear. It is a lot easier to get 2 different separate dogs with separate breedings and separate genetics than it is to find one dog to try to get him to do both.
Does both.
It's harder. It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would go buy a 5-year-old lion dog though and try to switch him to bears.
No.
Probably I wouldn't do that before I would find, and then, you know, like we've talked in this podcast so many times, find those guys that are hunting the style and the manner that you like to, the country you like to, and you know, pick their brain and get a dog from them that's already doing what you're after. Anyway, That's repetitive. We've talked about that a lot.
It's the truth, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because every region's different. I mean, if you're hunting in Montana, you're probably not going to be looking for a dry ground dog, really. You
Probably.
know. But yeah, it's interesting to get these questions in here, though. Try to, you know, Montana getting that season's a big deal anyway. Like, this is kind of uncharted territory for a lot of those guys. And we should do like Bear Dog 101 with somebody.
Yeah, we should.
You know, that'd be pretty cool.
It would be cool.
It's different. Like, some of them, the only exposure they have is Facebook or, you know, YouTube or something like that.
Right.
Where
they're just beginning and they're just trying to get. I mean, I've been that guy before.
Yeah, right.
Anybody that'll talk to you, you try to talk to them and ask them questions and pick their brain, and it's how you learn.
And then analyze everything and roll it over about 10,000 times.
Right. And then the more you learn, you realize you don't know jack crap.
Oh yeah. No, I've learned that's a continuation. The longer you're in this, the more you learn you don't know.
Don't know, yeah.
That's just how it works.
I remember when I first started hunting with my buddy that's kind of my mentor, and it's like, well, why did the dogs do that? And he would tell me, I don't know. And I would be so frustrated. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? You've been doing this for 25 years, 30 years. And then 2 days later, he'd call me and be like, I got it figured out. I think I know what happened that day. But in that moment, it was like, I don't know what the heck just happened. I don't know, you know, and then they have to think about it and mill it over in their head for a while, and then they come back and like, I bet you this is what happened that day.
He realized it at like 2 a.m. when he couldn't sleep. That's how it usually works.
Yeah.
So do you do anything? I mean, since you're going to be shifting to bears here pretty quick, do you do anything other than just go turn them loose on a bear and
go get the side by side
just go
out?
Back to it?
No, I get the side by side out and start stretching them out. Start roading the dogs pretty hard. Because there's a difference between being in lion shape and then bear shape, in my opinion. Like, even though I've been hunting hard, you know, lion races aren't bear races.
Right.
You know, a good lion race is 2 to 6 miles, 2 to 8 miles, 2 to 10. A good bear race starts at 20. At least in our country, they get dogged quite a bit, and so they've learned if they can just run and run and run, the dogs will soon fall out. So there'll be, I don't know, like I said, it'll take a few races and it'll start taking some roading to get him even that next level up. And there's something in the spring too. It's like there's all this pollen in the air, and the dog, everything smells good, and the dogs are, the coyotes start doing their thing, and the foxes are moving more, and everything's just. I had a pup yesterday that's been awesome all winter, and he decided he wanted to run a fox yesterday, and I'm like, "What are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
You know how many foxes we walked over in the last 3 months, and you never even gave it 2 cents? But the grass is green, and that fox ran right through here, and
Yep,
for some
good
reason,
scent.
you're just like, oh, this smells great. And he's blowing out of the country with his head straight in the air. And I'm like, you little turkey. So it's something happens in the spring and everybody gets all jittery and excited. And, it's different. It's
You're
just,
bound to have a couple train wrecks.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I anticipate those first couple bears you turn out on. It's just like, I don't know. Sometimes you got young dogs in the pack and they think they can run in the front, and it's just expect to not catch the first one you turn out on. You could have dog shotgun, something like this, and I don't know.
It's just that those young ones, they can run the front.
Yep.
But holding the front is a little different story. That's that fancy dog that I've got. That's what she was really bad about it early on. And I mean, she's gotten a lot better now. She learned how to drift the tracks, but
yeah,
get up there and run, and the next thing you know, you're thrown out.
Yep.
By the time you figure it out and turn around, you're 7,500 yards. Somebody hooked the right, you went left.
That's right.
And now you're playing catch up.
Yep.
Well, I think having to play catch up like that, it really taught her, like, hey, keep it tighter. If you make a lose, start small. Don't swing way out there. Yeah. But yeah, that's always fun to watch. They're running and you think, do they have it or do they not? That's always my wonder. Are they babbling?
I know.
Or like, are they running and just babbling, or do they have it? And you watch, okay, they're in line. And you see her take off.
Yeah.
Still barking, and everybody else just turns the other way. It's like, oh, yeah, we know what happened.
That bear made a hard right there on the creek, and she went up the hill or whatever. Yeah. Yep. And it's super refreshing to have those older dogs, those check dogs. It's like, here comes Belle. Is she gonna blow up with that puppy, or is she gonna keep going where that pup just went? But
so, are you starting new pups this year, or are you still running the ones from last year?
No, I've got those. They're about a 1-year-old now, so
yeah,
this will be like their first. They were on bear races last year, and they were in there. They weren't, they were hanging, but they weren't up the front pushing. So I'm super excited to see those 1-year-olds this year on bears. In fact, I need them to step up. Like, I want them to be able to start pulling some weight, because that's one thing I've learned too over the years is bear hunting is a young dog game. A 10-year-old lion dog, he can still catch lions all day long, but a 10-year-old bear dog, he looks like he's been to war and back, and he's stiffer, and it's just different. It's different. It's a different race, and it's a young dog game. Not having those 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds in your pack can hurt.
What's that Chris Ledoux line? It's not the years, son, it's the miles.
It's the miles.
That's the bear dogs.
That's the bear dogs. Yeah, like I said, bear hunting's like a UFC fight, man. It's just so physically, it's so much harder, I think, on a dog to run at that peak, at that top for that long, to push that hard, get hot and push through it, and
that's pretty crazy.
Have the grit to stick, and that's out here. I mean, those guys that run in like Ross that runs in Wisconsin, and those guys that run in the coast, a lot of our stuff is oak brush and big pines, and those guys that run the coast, and the dogs are like just plowing through this mat forest. Oh, yeah. That's got to be even that much more taxing on that body, right? Just constantly pushing through them. It's crazy. I took a couple dogs up there and ran with Bryce in Oregon. My dogs went 800 yards, and they were like, what's going on? I can't even see my tail up here in this country,
Yep.
And those dogs doing 6, 8, 10 miles, and that kind of just pushing through, push. Man, it's a lot of heart.
It's different.
It's a lot of heart. Yeah, and it's got to be dogs built to do that.
Yeah, because you think about it, it throws the locomotion off. Like, you think of a dog's conformation, you're a bird dog guy. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure you're big on conformation.
Yes.
When you've got a dog that's built to perform to do a certain job, and then you're asking it to weave through willow brushes, or through the manzanita, and it's making all these moves here and there, like, their bodies weren't really designed to do that. They were built to run. So it's hard on them. I think those dogs that come from that, like the Coast Range over here, anywhere it's real thick and jungly and gnarly,
Right.
that's got to break down their body faster, I would think, over just all out endurance running.
Right. Yeah, I think those dogs, and if those dogs came here and ran, they'd be like, this is great.
Right?
There's not near as much resistance.
I know, it's crazy. We just had to put down my Henry dog and his brother. So when we had that litter, I kept 2 and hunted them, and then my in-laws took one of the males and they showed him, and he was the show dog.
Cool.
And he was the #1 blue tick, I think, in AKC for 2014 in the confirmation ring, and
awesome.
Bench Grand, everything the dog could win other than Eukanuba. We went select at Eukanuba.
Gotcha.
But he didn't win it. And he's still kicking, and I look at the 2, like, and I just think about, God, how much older and how worn out and Henry was compared to his brother. And it's like a whole different respect.
Yep.
Everybody's sending messages. I'm sorry to hear about Henry. My dad's calling me. He says, "Man, I'm sorry. That was like the start of your whole ordeal."
Right.
But it's like, you just look at that dog and it's like, man, the stories that come out of those older dogs that have just been through the ringer over and over and over and over.
Yep.
You're grateful for the years you got with them, because there's never enough good years with a good dog.
Nope.
Like, that's just not how things work. And they're out of their prime, and then they're, taking a back door to young dogs, and, you're making, like, I shifted total different direction with game, and
right.
It's different. But yeah, that country, I would assume your country's tough too, though, on a dog. Being that dry and the hot, like,
right.
Your feet have got to be rock hard, I would think.
Yeah. And
do you use any kind of, like, anything on them, or you just run a barefooted dog?
No, I don't put any shoes on them. We use that paws are protected at certain times to condition and help heal.
Yeah.
That's a great product that's helped a lot, and I think you guys actually picked it up.
Yeah, we just did.
Just recently, and I've actually had lots of houndsmen over the last 2 years are like, does that stuff work? Because, dude, I've bought you name it, I've bought it.
Right.
And it's like, and some of them would work pretty good. Some of them were like total trash. You're like, oh, that was a waste of money.
Snake oil.
Yep, snake oil. But that paws are protected stuff 100% helps heal. There's no doubt about it. Because I've had bird dogs even all dogs that get cut or, snagged or went through a fence or got smacked by the bear or whatever, all those cuts, man, I just take that crap and just pack it in there because it's got a bunch of aloe in it, but it has some antibacterial stuff too, so it keeps them from getting all infected. Man, I've used that on every cut, nick, and everything the last couple years, and I love that stuff for that kind of thing. And then on the feet, definitely helps. Like right now, when just came off of that thaw and that freeze, got that crappy snow that was just shredding dogs,
cutting them up.
Yeah, that. But going forward, as much as I rode them, they get to the point where I don't have to use the paws are protected too much. But early bear season, I'll be gobbing that crap on, just trying to keep them. They're just gonna stay in the game longer, and they're gonna get back in the game quicker. If they blow a pad, I haven't had too many blown pads since I started using that stuff, because it takes that pad and it almost makes it like, it conditions it so much moisture's in there that it makes it more rubbery. I think it gives more, instead of slipping.
Really?
Instead of slipping on a rock or on a volcanic rock and then that pad slipping and cutting and blowing the whole pad out, it's more like a little cut or it's more, it doesn't just, the whole flesh doesn't come off the pad anyway. So that's a great product, but nothing will ever take place of just flat, tough feet.
Genetics.
Yeah. And That was my biggest pet peeve when I started getting into hounds. Is I was running walker dogs, and they couldn't hunt on day 3. You know,
Yeah.
we just chased 2 bears, and we want to hunt 3 more days. And my walker dogs, their feet were not. They're big old sprawled out feet, you know. And these
Like
blue dogs,
coon-footed.
yeah, and these dogs that I'm running now are tight footed, lots of hair. I mean, just tons of hair packed in there. And you
Sure.
pull up a good German short hair pad or a foot, and you look at it. There's all this hair inside that webbing of their feet, and man, if you can get a hound that has that, they don't get the crap in there. They don't get the snow in there. They don't get the sticks.
Right.
They just run better. They hold up better. They last a lot longer. But yeah, my big pet peeve, and that's why I went into running a lot of the blue dogs, was tougher feet, better pads, heck of a lot more hair in there, and they're black. Those pads are black, you know, coal black. They're not white or
Not a pink
pink or
pad.
yeah. There's nothing.
You really think that has something to do with it? The color of the pad?
The pigment, yeah. I know in the bird dog world, there's a lot of talk about pigment in feet, and it's similar to horses too. You get white pigment, or you get white hoofed horses. I don't know how true that is on the foxtrotters that we had and the gaited horses we had. I had a Missouri foxtrotter who had lighter pigment in her in the bottom of her feet and the 2 Tennessee walkers I had just black. You know, that black foot. God, those horses, those 2 gaited horses with black feet never got tender.
Yeah.
Whether I wore shoes on them or not, they were never really tender. That foxtrotter, if you know, day 3 of hard riding, if you didn't have her shoed, she'd start. So I think there is some truth to the pigment coloration.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a ton of experience. I've only had a couple of light-footed dogs, but it seemed like they were the ones that would always slip.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and even when there was like a weird stage, it's like you start getting them in shape and they're almost there, and one bad run, man,
Right.
goes from being one night away from having good iron feet or starting from square one all over again.
I learned that the hard way. Just roding dogs.
Yeah.
You're a lot better off to do 6 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, and just slowly, you know, rode those. When I first got into hounds, I dumped a bunch of dogs and got on the 4-wheeler and blew out of there. And I'm like, yeah, I'll wear them out real quick. Yeah, and that first night I blew every pad and every dog there, and it was like, well,
Yep.
I'm not hunting for 3 weeks. Yeah, so I don't do that anymore. It's a slow build up, you know, start at 2-3 miles and go, and then it's just slow. That slow, consistent roding is where you get the pad build up and the muscle build up too.
Yeah. No, that's something I think a lot of people really do pay attention to. I mean, hound guys know if you don't have a good foot on your dog, it's not going to last.
Yeah.
So,
I had one
Well,
when I first got going, and she was awesome, but she's only good for 1 day. And it was like,
Yeah.
well, now I know why this guy gave me this dog, because she was a great hunter, but you hunted her hard 1 day and you had to lay her up for a week. It's like, well, that's kind of pointless.
right? That's cool, man. I hope your bear season goes good.
I'm excited. I love bear hunting.
Are you guiding some bears this year too?
Yeah, we'll probably, yep, we'll be guiding some bears.
Right on.
The guiding part's fun, but it's stressful. It's work.
Oh yeah.
You hate to say it, but it's like babysitting men instead of babysitting kids. You know, you got a 50-year-old guy there that thinks, yeah, guiding's not. It's tough. I mean, you have some really good clients. Don't get me wrong, but occasionally you get that one
Sure.
guy, and it's like, you're like,
We should do like the guide's lament
oh,
and just do a
man.
segment on like just
Yeah,
botched
you should
guiding
just call
stories.
about 8 or 10 guides. I guarantee they've all got stories of that one guy. It's like, oh man, it's like,
I'm gonna write that down. That one might have
It's
to
like
happen. That could be a fun episode.
yeah, it's like babysitting a 50-year-old, 3-year-old. You know, it's like, dude, no, your snacks
Right.
are not here. They're still in the truck. And oh man, I've had some good ones, but anyway.
What's worse, hunting with a client or with a kid?
My kids, I can tell them to just be quiet. I can't tell the client to shut up and sit in the truck.
True.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind it. I think that's part of the reason I got into hounds is because of the social aspect. You know,
Yeah.
that's look at these field trials that you're going to, and look at the podcast, and look at what you guys have done with W and the podcast, and I mean, most houndsmen are awesome, dude. They're just good people, and
It's true.
you know, they're the kind of guys that when you're in a hard spot, you can call somebody, or they're gonna show up. They're patriotic. They're good people. They really are.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah,
Well, guys that you haven't talked to in months, you can pick up the phone and just start BSing.
Right.
Like Jared just disappears for all lion season,
Yeah, I
and
was
then all of
gone
a
for
sudden
like
he's
4
back.
months. Yeah. No, I think that's what's really cool about the hound world. And you're out there hunting a bear with a pack of hounds. It's not like hunting deer. You don't have to have
Right.
all thing camoed, and you don't have to be super quiet, and you can talk, and you spend 3 or 4 days in a pickup truck with a guy. You get to know him pretty
You get to
well,
know
right?
him.
Like you talk a lot about their life and their kids and what's going on and how things are going. And so that's one thing that I really like about the whole hound. I think that's one of the reasons I've kind of gravitated to the hounds is the social aspect of you make some really good friends. You meet some really cool people. And then the guiding is
Sure.
you get people coming from all over the world, to do something that they,
Always
guy from
wanted to
Georgia,
do.
guy from Texas, guy from New York, and it's just like they're out here looking around going, this place is beautiful. Like I've never been to a place like this before. And then they see the dog aspect of it and they see the camaraderie that goes behind it, and your buddy shows up to help you get a cat out, or it's
Right.
really awesome. I take it for granted. I'm so close to it now. It's like, if you think and look back to the first line that you ever went to, the tree, you were like, whoa,
It's like
there's this
awe-striking.
predator in a tree and these dogs caught it, and all this stuff happened to get to where we are. And you have a deeper realization of like how many pieces are moving to get to that.
Yeah, it's almost like you get that one experience and it's what hooks you, and you spend the rest of your life figuring out what happened between the beginning and that end.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it's the podcast. We've been getting so many phone calls, and, obviously it's people placing orders or whatever, but you'd be surprised at how many of them end with, hey, by the way, I really enjoyed blah, blah, blah on the podcast,
Yeah.
this episode or this part or whatever. And it's a lot of new hunters,
Awesome.
which is awesome because, I feel like instead of this being a tutorial, style or, trying to teach like we all talked about the method, right?
Right.
But the one thing we always hammered on was you have to have your own method. So it's nice that there's so many different points of views coming in,
Right.
and, getting to expose a lot of new hunters to this
You bet.
and spread that knowledge base. Like, you think all the wisdom and knowledge in these old timers
Right.
to get it down and get it on here, or even just, same thing with a dog. You want to judge a dog at 2 years old that's been hunted a dozen times.
Right.
Even these guys that are, in their 30s, 40s,
Right.
that are hunting just hard.
Right.
There's a lot of knowledge there.
There is.
And it's cool to see people recognizing it
Yeah.
and like going out of their way to acknowledge, like, hey, thank you. That's awesome. We really enjoyed hearing this or whatever.
Right.
So,
Man, keep it up. I've got the podcast app on my phone, and I'm just waiting every Monday and every Thursday, or is it Monday, Wednesday? I don't know.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, I check my phone every morning to see if there's a new episode out, because it's like I plug it in and listen to it. I'm jacked. The Del Lee stuff. I mean,
Dude, right?
Brett, thank you for bringing that out, because it's just pure enjoyment. You just plug that in and just listen to that guy, and I mean, some of the stories are just crazy. It's like, wow.
That guy was nuts. Like, insane nuts.
Like, yeah, like, hey, we're going to rope this line and tie it up and pack it out on a horse. And I'm like, you crazy son of a gun.
Oh, this is no big deal. You just got to put his head this way so that he doesn't bite you. I mean, simple stuff, Jared.
Right. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah.
I expect your next one to come out live.
Heck no, dude. I don't know. Anyway, so kudos to you guys. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Jason, for all the hard work. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. It's cool because it's a platform, but you got Del Lee stuff on there. You got Brett stuff on there. You got Bear stuff on there. You got some of the stuff that we're doing. You got Ross as a whole nother. I mean, there's a little bit of everything there, And I think when we originally talked about W becoming this hub for providing information and
Right.
at all different levels. I think you guys are finding your stride, and I think it's awesome, man. Just keep it up.
We're
'Cause,
working on it, man.
I mean, I know you're on the phone a lot and probably doing a lot of recordings, and a lot of interviews, but yeah, even me, I'm out there listening. I'm loving it.
Oh, good to hear,
Keep
man.
it up.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate you coming on,
Yeah,
as always.
I enjoy it.
We'll have to do this more often now that you're not out chasing lions
Yep.
all the time.
Yep. Days are longer now, so we can play.
Right on. Well, I expect a good train wreck story after you start chasing some bears around.
Won't take long. Won't take long.
All right, Jared. Well, thanks, man. Had a good chat.
Have a good week.